we're going to start. So can you please close the door? So welcome to the final panel. And the journey started 3.5 hours ago at a very high level when we discussed the relationship between the incumbent and the newcomer, and the friction and the power games, and then we moved into geopolitics, we moved into finance, into the nexus of electricity, AI, nuclear, and then we moved into the doers, and that's where we are now. We are with the doers. So we started at 30,000 feet, and now we're down, and we're bringing back the only thing that actually can make all this happen, which is the human being. We've heard how the importance of workforce, and we know statistically that we'll have between 10 and 15 million people shortage in terms of workforce by 2030, and that is compounded with approximately 30-40% of workforce retiring in the energy sector. So these are people without whom the energy transition or the creation of a new energy system pursuing energy sovereignty and competitiveness remains an unreachable goal. Yet technology once again can come and help us. There's automation that can play a role. So the panel, the last panel for today is going to be exactly around, on one side, the possibility to upskill and reskill people through education. And on the other one is the possibility to adopt automation and robots to fill gaps that cannot be met in time. So I think the starting question is, let's clear the table and let's talk about what actually only humans can do. Peter.
Sure. So there's a myth that robots will take away all the jobs, right? And we brought one of the robots with us. So just, I don't know if you've seen it, we are at ANYbotics a manufacturer and provider of robotic automation services, so robots that run through facilities to collect data automatically. And why we do that is because we have found that the human workforce, right, they're really good at taking decisions, contextual understanding, analysis. So doing the hard stuff, the creativity, right, that the machine cannot do yet. But at the same time, the reality is that the reliability engineers and the maintenance engineers, they spend hours collecting data very manually, right? At the same time, our eyes and ears, our senses are not very good, and our brain is not built to collect all that data. So the human obviously is really good in creativity, decision understanding, but it needs input. And this is where the robots come in to frequently, at the high reliability, and in dangerous environments collect that data such that humans can take decisions.
Sylvain?
Excellent, thanks. First let me mention that I'm a professor in economics, so I'm not an engineer. So please apologize if I make any mistakes in physics or different types of technologies. But yeah, thank you for the excellent answer first, because you already mentioned it. I think whenever critical judgment or responsibility are to be taken, human beings enter the scene. So whenever a decision has to be made, finally it's at the end the human who has to take this responsibility. And therefore in the energy field, in the energy transition, in the decarbonization issues, there is always investments to be made. You have to invest in a new technology. So what kind of technology do you invest in? For how long? And of course, in an investment, there is an important timing decision. The duration of the investment is very long. If you build a new nuclear plant, it's for several decades. Therefore, there is uncertainty. And, well, people have a different view on uncertainty, have a different view of the future. So, of course, it is where human beings need to enter the scene. And the risk aversion is only something that is taken into account by human beings. So this is where, of course, the responsibility has to be taken by humans.
Excellent. And so It's ultimately a matter of timing. You mentioned so speed versus capability. What needs to be done to fill the gap, the talent gap? What are the key steps to fill this gap?
Can we start? Sure. I think so. Filling the talent gap will take time. Okay, so investments are for the long run, but also to understand the new technologies that are being developed, it takes a lot of time. So, as I mentioned, so technology adoption is also something that needs to be done by the people, by the human beings, and people are most of the time afraid of new technologies. I think we mentioned it before. There is some sort of resistance to change. You also, Peter, mentioned it. Will that robot take my job? So I might not be very happy when a new technology emerges because it might take my job. I might not be familiar, or by definition, I'm not familiar with the new technology. So I'm more familiar and more happy with the old system. It's the same in mobility. Some people are convinced that electric vehicles are even worse than thermic vehicles. So I might be more ready to keep the old system and to continue with the incumbent solution, for using the words that Philippe Aguillon used before, rather than taking the risk of going toward the new technology. Therefore, we need education to learn about the new technologies, to understand them. And when I say education, it's both for the standard people, say the end users, but also in the education system. So to develop a new education system, of course, will take a lot of time. Where I'm teaching at the University of Applied Sciences in Geneva, we just built a new curricula, which is called the Sustainable Business, which is part of a master program. And these initiatives are taking place in many different academic institutions all around the world. I believe most of the bachelor and master studies now, they include some sustainability skills, whatever the field of study. And more broadly, probably it's very important that some people are able to understand the entire value chain in the energy system, so that, well, they are not specialized in any different technology, but if you want to build a system which is integrated, for instance, you need to put solar PV on the roof, but you also need to plant trees or vegetation on the roof. These are two different types of skills, but they merge very well. But for this, you need to know how to grow plants and to install solar PVs. And so these types of skills are usually separated in different people, and now we need to combine them together.
Let me share a couple of stories how that looks in reality, right, from our work at ANYbotics. So there's always two challenges. How do you your existing workforce, how do you amplify them, how do you make them more efficient, and how do you gain new people? Fact is that more people go into retirement than our customers can find young people who can and want to do these types of physical work. Now, for the existing workforce, right, a lot of people, especially media, says, okay, you're taking away jobs, all of that. Once you're on site and you're very transparent about your robot, what it can do and what it cannot do, and you give the tablet to the people, in the hands of the people, right, and you control the robot. I had cases, there's this 190 tall guy worker looks at the robot and says, okay, is this robot going to replace me? Is here to replace me? And then we explain it to him, and then, he tries around. 5 minutes later, he asked me, so does that mean I don't have to run away 4 stairs down to read that instrument? They were best friends, selfies, Facebook, the whole thing, right? Because very, very quickly, once they understand what the robot truly can do, and we see the robot as a force multiplier, right? For the existing workforce, fewer people, but to use the brain more less than, the repetitive work. Another case is where companies need to prepare to, make the worker's position future-proof. So our customers are not hiding they're using robots, quite the opposite. They're going to job fairs with it. They're going to universities and claim, once, we work with us, you're not only a plant operator, but you're a robot operator. And that is extremely attractive. They internally even make contests to apply to be the robot operator. right? Can you imagine? So suddenly the robot is a super nice when people apply to work with a robot, makes the position future-proof. And this is the entire, shift that we can fight the demographic shift of people, the gray tsunami coming to us, and make it future-proof for young people to work with robots. And it would be very normal that companies think of hiring people and hiring robots to get the job done. So we will not only have an HR, but an RR, the robot resources management.
Amazing, I love RR. So the spectrum is basically on one side fear, and on the other basically kind of friendship of collaboration. So let's talk about collaboration or symbiosis between humans and robots. What's the winning model for the next 10 years up to 2035?
Yeah, I mean, so far we were really, all the industries was running behind Industry 4.0, digitalization, everything, sensors for everything. And that has its merits, but I think we reached a point where it's not going up anymore. With every sensor I'm adding, right, I'm adding more cost, the sensor needs to be maintained. So what companies sometimes do, they actually remove some of the sensors again, because the cost, the overhead is so high. The fact is, I cannot place for every problem at every location a sensor. And we have business data, we have process data, this is all the IoT, but there's so much environmental data, observable data. And this so far has been either collected by humans, which we know is very ineffective. IoT can sporadically cover some points, but now finally we have robots that can cover the entire set. And now the industry, I think, starts to embrace Industry 5.0, where we have a clear understanding of not everything is digitalized, and it doesn't need to be lights out from the beginning, but it's rather this smart collaboration between humans and robots. Coming back to what truly the human can do, what can the robot do, and finding ways there. And it's coming with a lot of respect towards the people, understanding what truly people can do. Because even the smartest AI system, they can maybe run the facility for a while, but they cannot fix them, they cannot invest in them, they cannot expand them. So it requires that human supervision, treating the entire plant, including the robot, as an organism, but it's that collaboration, respectful exchange between humans and robots and machines and AI to foster that.
Thank you. Sylvain?
I believe so. Your question was, is there a winning model for 2035?
I mean, emphasis on...
No, that's perfect. But let me start by saying that attitudes, perceptions are heterogeneous. They are different from country to country, region to region, segment of population. Age might be a factor which makes a difference in the perception of new technologies, whatever. So that means, in my opinion, there is not one winning model, but we need different technologies. The new renewables like solar and wind, they complement each other. The new renewables, they complement with older technologies. And so the perfect answer finally was given by Laurence in the session just before the break. Instead of putting all our effort in one technology, we should have a portfolio approach and really diversify, because this is how we will not miss any winning approach. And by diversifying, we don't put all our eggs in the same basket. Which means that we need to design a system which makes this possible. And I believe economists have something to say about this, but a CO2 tax, for instance, is something which is advocated by a number of economists, because that puts all technologies on the same foot, right? If you tax based on the CO2 emissions, then one technology which emits a lot will be disadvantaged versus all the others. Versus as if you provide subsidies, it's like if, as the government, you say, okay, this is the correct answer. And this will attract many efforts, versus when you tax, you discourage one which is worse against all others. So you don't forbid any new technology to emerge, which could be better, that we still don't know.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Go ahead.
So, very excellent panel. My question is in terms of the assumptions that we're making about the workforce issue. And I think you made a valid point when you talked about the issue of perception, right? But my question goes back to this panel, previous panel, and basically all the panels today, there's something I think is missing here, and it's not actually, it's a comment that you can respond to it. The last panel talked about a lot of technologies being deployed. The panel with Salt X talked about a lot of technologies being deployed. But the storytelling about the industry. So if I ask anybody today about mining, their mind goes directly to data mining, goes directly to Facebook, goes back to Meta, and the list goes on. But listening to the last panel, the world needs more critical minerals now than ever. But no city in the US or maybe in Europe is building a new electricity power plant for a mine. They're building it for a data center. So what has the mining industry, and from your perspective, what have we done wrong in terms of not telling the right story so that AI, data centers, is all of a sudden more important than a mine? Because there will be no data center without a mine. So are we missing something in how we tell the story about energy or about mining or about industrial heat, that the young people are not coming to this industry because we don't know how to tell the story? You're the academician, so I put you on the spot. How do we tell the story about all the good things that you're doing? I knew nothing about all the mining stuff. My first time hearing about the mining stuff today. So who's telling the story about the industry?
I will give you an economist answer, of course. I'm not sure how to answer, but I think something we're missing is the people's reaction to the new technologies. And I think your question is basically something about the debate between between efficiency versus sufficiency, right? You can invest into efficiency, so you produce the same service in a better way, using less energy. But then because energy has become cheaper, then you can use it more. You can use more service. This is something which happens, for instance, if you buy a new car, it's more efficient than the previous one. So it becomes cheaper for you to ride the car and you will use it more. You will maybe even take the car instead of before you were taking the train. And the principle goes even further, because if you save some money, you can spend this money into other services, which also consume more energy. So there is something which is very tricky in this innovation, in these new technologies, because that has an impact on using more energy. And probably this is something which is similar to what you were mentioning about the mining. If you mine more, then you will use more, and you find more usage for the material which has been extracted. Okay, so this is why your question was excellent before. What's the winning model for merging correctly the technology with the human behavior? It's not obvious, but you need something which limits how we use energy and what we do with the material we extract. And this is also where a tax would be more efficient than a subsidy, because it discourages the usage of more energy and more material.
And I have a thought on this too. Great question and observation. You need probably, if you type in mining, oil and gas, chemicals, right, on Google Images, all those, pictures of workers in dull, dirty, dangerous, distant, and that's just not the sexy today. And so I think, coming back to what our customers do, to put the robot in front and saying you're a robot operator, there's a trend there, to look positive. Now, what I believe is happening, what I observe also from hiring people, right? There's a lot of AI, software, all that boom is very attractive. But at the meantime, they say, hey, it's all just digital and cyber and the cloud. Robots and machines, this is where physics happen. This is where the rubber meets the road. And that is actually indeed very, very attractive for a lot of the people. So we gain a lot of excellent hires because they see this is tangible. Robots can be sexy, machines can be sexy. So I think there can be a shift now in physical AI, right? Using all those models to move machines. Finally, that can be an attractive point. It hasn't happened yet, the tipping point, but I think we're onto something that this story can be retold in a more attractive manner.
And I have one very final question. China has 120,000 people working in the critical mineral supply chain. The US has 1,000 people. Europe, maybe no one. So how do we go by filling that gap? Can automation play a role there to accelerate, given the importance, whether it's electrification or the setup of new technologies or AI. We do need to get our hands dirty on new technologies, and this new technology requires isotopes and atoms and rare metals. Otherwise, Europe is critically, systemically going to stay behind. What's your sort of reaction to this question?
I think, as Peter was mentioning before, and I can build on this, the new machines will make the workers more productive. For those who is operating the machine, then of course you can produce more. So if there is new technology which makes the worker more productive, that should increase their wages. So the market could solve this, basically. Because if wages are higher, then it's attractive for people to go in this industry. And therefore, well, again, there is a link between technology and the workforce.
Mm-hmm. Peter?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be able to fight with the same rules. So we have to change the rules, and robotics, AI, all these technologies can break new rules, a new paradigm. So the only way to actually then compete globally, right? You won't find cheaper workers, and so you have to change the environment. So what's happening with our customers in the US and Europe who embrace, in this case, robotics, AI, I think that's a very valid position to go.
Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking and applauding our panelists. Thank you. And with this panel, we've reached the conclusion of the Energy Leadership Forum 2026. We are not part of the World Economic Forum, but this year's theme for the World Economic Forum was dialogue, as the World Economic Forum has built a reputation of being an elitist circle of people. So they made dialogue the theme for 2026. And I think dialogue is part of the DNA of the Energy Leadership Forum. We want to improve the debate of energy. We want people with diverging opinions sitting next to each other. We've heard panels talking exactly the opposite from one to the other. And that's because energy is a topic that passionating for many of us. So thank you very much for supporting us, for bearing for this 4-hour marathon today. Thank you so much.